Chapter 25. There Ain't No Cure for the Peace Breath Blues. At least Annabeth didn't take the entire blast. To cover the most ground, Phaedra breathed on us the way you might slash with a blade, diagonally, top to bottom. Annabeth got fogged in the face. I got it across the chest. Grover got fumigated below the belt. At first, nothing seemed to happen. I felt so relieved I smacked Phaedra in the nose with the tilt of my sword. Her eyes rolled up into her head and she collapsed. Annabeth elbowed Phaedra in the face, putting her on the floor too. I hoped there were some good plastic surgeons in the area because after this fight, the twins were going to need a matching nose jobs. Both of our attackers were down. The beast had been smashed, but only destroyed half the laboratory, and Gale was still alive, watching us cautiously from her perch in the air duct. I sighed in relief. That actually could have been worse. I shouldn't have said that. Annabeth responded, "Who?" I would have jumped out of my pants if I'd been wearing any. Where my girlfriend's face had been a second before, two huge black eyes stared out of overhooked golden beak. Her head had turned into a heart-shaped expanse of white plumage, ribbed with speckled brown feathers. From the neck up, my wise girl was a barn owl. "What?" I yelled. And the best new head turned sideways. "Who?" They were both really good questions. Grover sobbed. "Percy, oh my God. It'll be fine," I stammered. "We'll figure it out." "No, look at yourself," Grover demanded. I glanced down. I was still bare-chested. Still in my underwear. I raised my hands, except I didn't have hands anymore. Where my arms used to be were eight thick purple tentacles lined with pink suction cups. One tentacle was curled around Riptide. I was so shocked I loosened my hold, letting the blade drop. Oh, I wanted to throw up. No offense to octopuses. I've had some great conversations with octopus, but I didn't want to have their tentacles. My new appendage felt wet and slimy. Powerful muscles rippled under the skin. The suckers clasped and unclasped, smelling the air, searching for something to grip. "This is bad." "That's not all," Grover whimpered. It was hard to get out of my own misery zone, but I forced myself to look at Grover. He was staring down at his legs and weeping. Where his furry coat hindquarters had been, there was bare skin, forward articulating knees, and instead of hoofs, feet. 5-toed feet not too different from mine. "Human," he sniffled. "That's the worst kind of beast." I felt down a little resentment. Because of the three of us, I felt like he'd gotten the least awful deal. These things included. Then again, I wasn't a satyr. Yeah, I said. "Sorry, man, but there has to be a cure." "There isn't," wailed Phaedra from the floor. These naiads were tough. Phaedra had sap leaking out her broken nose and white beast juice crusted around her battered mouth. But she always ready, trying to get back up. "How are you still conscious?" I demanded. "You fool," she cried. "Beast breath has no antidote. You will be like that forever." Annabeth turned her head 180 degrees and shrieked at the nymph. "Oh!" It sounded like more of a statement than a question. I guess Annabeth was cursing in awe. Or maybe she was just reacting to noise from a rival protector. Had the potion changed the inside of her head too? Did she know the brain of a raptor? I knew owls were supposed to be Athena's animals, wise and knowing and all that. But I didn't like the idea of my girlfriend having to live the rest of her life with the head of a bird. I mean, yes, I was pretty nocturnal. We could try to make it work. But if she started swallowing rodents whole and coughing up all pellets, no. There had to be a solution. The whole room felt like it was shaking. I tried to calm the tremors in my gut. "Grover," I said, "can you tie these nymphs up tight this time?" He stared miserably at his legs. "I feel so violated. My beautiful fur, my hocks and two claws." "Grover!" I flayed my tentacles. I hadn't meant to, but they responded to my agitation, shimmying around and coiling into loops. I was lucky I didn't squirt ink out of my armpits. Grover, I know, man, but please, don't call me a man, he sobbed. The tremble in my gut was getting worse and started moving down into my legs. I wish I'd been first in line with the peace breath. I probably would have turned into a mackerel hat or something, but at least Annabeth would have still been able to talk and tell us what to do. She would have had an idea. Me, I had 100 new suckers and a strange desire to hunt lobsters. Grover, tie up the twins, would you? I pleaded. I gotta think. Okay, okay. Grover shuffled awkwardly toward Dedra. How do you walk on these? They're so tender. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Meanwhile, Annabeth, who thankfully still had human arms, started tying Phaedra's wrists together with rubber hoses. I hoped that meant she was still thinking like herself. Grover grabbed some duct tape. He knelt next to Dedra, who was now groaning and half conscious, then apparently realized it was going to be hard to tie her wrists together since she only had one head. He padded over to the severed bear paw, picked it up by one claw, and took it back to Dedra. He duct taped it back to her wrist, despite the fact that it was several sizes too big. A good surgeon should be able to reattach this if you hurry, Grover said. It's a bear paw, Dedra complained. I'm a nymph. There, Grover said, patting her shoulder, which did not seem to comfort her. There's got to be something in this lab, I said. All these potions. There isn't, Phaedra said. You're doomed to stay as you are. Even if you could concoct a cure, you don't have time. Who? Annabeth asked. Look, Phaedra pointed with her chin. The bubbling pool of cauldron soup continued to spread. It was now 6 feet in diameter, with gooey tendrils snaking between the stone tiles, cracking on the floor apart. Noxious steam rose from the fissures. The trembling I felt wasn't just me. The room was shaking. We may be doomed, Phaedra crackled. But you are too if you stay here. Soon this entire building will collapse into a bottomless pit. That definitely didn't sound good. What would Annabeth do? I mean, if she wasn't a burnt owl? I glanced up at Gil, still watching us curiously from the air duct. I remembered my shadow travel disco experience with Hecuba, and the way we had finally bonded at the ruins of Troy. Grover, Annabeth, I said. Get the twins out of here. Get to safety. Looking like this? Grover demanded. Ah? Screeched Olabeth. I have an idea, I promised. I met Annabeth's big blackbird eyes. I didn't need to be an expert in all facial expressions to know she was skeptical. I had ideas the way other people had rashes. They were usually embarrassing and not something you wanted to share. Trust me, I said, flailing my new purple tentacles. I'm going to talk to the polecat.